Today I've got a list of some of my favorite comfort movies on physical media. So let's rock this. Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Fuzz, and comfort movies, that is the topic for today. Sometimes we talk about comfort food. We all have certain like food dishes that we consider kind of comforting, right? For me, lasagna is a big comfort food, right? For someone else, it might be, I don't know, tuna casserole or something like that, right? Well, just like how we have comfort food and certain dishes that we find very comforting, I also have comfort movies, right? And comfort movies are, how would I define this? I guess they're movies that are, they're highly rewatchable, at least to the person they're comforting to. Yeah, usually movies I've seen a bunch of times. They're movies that I watch when I'm not really in the mood to watch something new that I've never seen before. Sometimes I get in these moods where I just want to veg out on something that I'm ultra familiar with. I just kind of want to chill and have this movie wash over me that's almost kind of soothing and maybe rings a few nostalgic bells there. It's usually a movie that's a little older and one that I used to watch back in the day or something when it first came out, or in the years immediately after it first came out. There are times where I just don't really feel like seeing something that I've never seen before, and I just want to watch something that I know like the back of my hand, right? That I've maybe seen a million times, and that I don't have to, spend too much time contemplating where the plot lines are going or anything like that. Like I said, it's the kind of movie that you can just veg out on, not have to think too hard about, and just kind of let it wash over you. And subsequently, it's no big deal if you miss a line or two of dialogue, or you have to get up and go get a snack or go to the bathroom or something. If you miss a scene, it's not a big deal because it's a comfort movie and you've seen the movie a million times. Ultimately, I think comfort movies kind of offer this feeling of almost like you're returning home to something, right? Something you've been away from for a long time that you've very much missed, and that you're looking forward to getting reacquainted with, right? Those are what comfort movies kind of do for me, right? And some of them, you watch many, many times over and over again. Some of them I watched many times years ago, but then kind of stopped watching them for a number of years, right? And only in the last few years have I gotten back into watching these movies. Now, I want to note something here about today's list. First off, it's not ranked. They're not in any particular order. This is not like a countdown to my absolute favorite comfort movies of all time. There are big movies that I would consider all-time favorite comfort movies that I'm not going to be talking about in this video today. I'm talking about movies like Alien and Aliens, Terminator, Terminator 2. Those are like all-time favorite movies for me, and I put them in a category of what I call the it goes without saying category. As in, it goes without saying that these are like my all-time favorite comfort movies, right? I didn't want to just have a repeat of like my all-time favorite movies list for this video. I wanted to do something a little bit different and be able to talk about some other comfort movies that I wouldn't even necessarily always consider the best movies, but for whatever reason, I've developed this attachment to these movies over the years, and they're the kind of movies that I've watched a ton of times and never seem to really get sick of watching. So that's why I say this is a list of some of my favorite comfort movies. I have excluded anything that would be like a top 10 all-time favorite film for me, because I've talked about many of those films so often on the channel that I didn't want to just rehash those. Although for anyone who's been watching the channel for any period of time, I probably mentioned all of these titles at least at some point over the life of the channel over the last almost 2 years now. So if you're a big fan of the channel, most of these probably won't be a surprise that they're movies that I like, because I have at least mentioned them at some point over the last couple years. And what I noticed when I was making this list is that apparently a lot of my personal comfort movies are action movies from the 90s and early 2000s. It just kind of worked out that way. So expect to see a lot of that on this list. So I've got a list of 20 plus movies today. These are not ranked, not in any particular order. Once again, it's just a random smattering of comfort movies that I really dig and can't get enough of. All right, so let's get into this list. First off, we've got a movie that I don't even necessarily think is that great of a movie. I mean, it's okay, it's entertaining, but it's not the kind of movie that I would consider like a all-time favorite film or anything like that, right? But for some reason, it's a movie that I've seen a million times, and it used to play on cable TV all the time. I think I don't even have cable TV anymore. That's not really a thing. But you hear me mention that a lot on this channel, that I always talk about movies that used to play on cable TV all the time, because that's how I watched most of my movies that I watched back in the day. I've always had cable, or at, for many years, up until just a couple years ago, I always had cable, always had some kind of premium movie channel, HBO, Showtime, at least one or two of those. And there are certain movies that just used to play all the time. And this is one of them. And I'm talking about the movie Swordfish here, starring John Travolta, Hugh Jackman, Halle Berry, Don Cheadle, great cast. And I have it in this little triple feature pack with Point Break and Executive Decision. But for our purposes here today, I mean, Point Break's a comfort movie too. It really is. I love Point Break, but I'm not talking about Point Break today. Today I wanted to talk about Swordfish, because this movie I've seen a ton of times, and every time it would come on, I would get sucked into it, and so sometimes I like to return to this one. There's definitely that sense of familiarity and a little bit of nostalgia even. This is what, a 2001 film, so the tail end, kind of coming off of that killer run of action films in the 90s, and John Travolta was pretty hot. His career had been revived with starting with Pulp Fiction and then all that run of films he did in the 90s. So, but this is a fun film, and I actually really like John Travolta in it. So, yeah, very much a comfort movie for me, and one that I don't ever seem to really get sick of. And this is one I'd love to see get a 4K release as well. That would be awesome. I mean, I don't know how good it would look. I know they do use some CGI, and I don't know. There's some interesting stuff with the camera in this one. I don't know how well it would hold up on 4K now, but whatever. I'd still like to see it get a 4K release at some point. All right, for my second entry here, I've got a movie that I first talked about on this channel, I think in a hostage crisis movies video that I did, some of my favorite hostage crisis movies, and I think this one was right up near the top of that list, and it may be the only time I've ever mentioned it, but on this channel, but I love it. I'm talking about The Negotiator. Absolutely a comfort movie for me. I have loved this movie ever since I first saw it in 1998. Great movie with Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey. My favorite role for Kevin Spacey. I don't really, I'm not really that into Kevin Spacey, especially now, but I do like Kevin Spacey in this movie. I thought he did a pretty good job with this role, and it's just a fun movie. It's highly, highly rewatchable, as are almost all of these movies, right? That's the whole point of this list. Comfort movies, by their very nature, are highly rewatchable. So, but yeah, this one, I always love returning to this one, and this is the kind of movie I can watch every couple years or so. It's always fun to revisit this one. So yeah, The Negotiator. And then for my third entry today, we've got a 2003 film that I have seen so many times. I'm talking about SWAT, little Colin Farrell action, Samuel L. Jackson again, Michelle Rodriguez, and who else is in this? LL Cool J? Yeah, this is one that I've seen so many times and never get sick of this one. I just love it. It's a lot of fun. And, I would love to see this one get a 4K release as well. This is another one of those. Same with Negotiator, too. I mean, all of these that I'm showing, anything I'm showing on Blu-ray today that doesn't already have a 4K release, I absolutely would love to see get a 4K release. But this one, I watch probably at least once a year. It's a fun movie. So yeah, if you've never seen SWAT, I'd recommend checking it out. And funny thing about this is, Colin Farrell is an interesting actor, because I'm not like the biggest Colin Farrell fan. But I've seen a lot of his movies for some reason, and I don't dislike him either. I actually kind of like him. I'm kind of like neutral on him, right? I'm kind of somewhat indifferent. I mean, in this, I actually liked him in this, and there's another movie on this list, I believe, later on that he's in as well. that I really like him in. It's just for some reason I end up seeing him, and I've seen a lot of his movies, even though I've never really considered myself the biggest Colin Farrell fan. But I think of all the roles he's done, I think I like him in this one the most. So yeah, SWAT. All right, next up, I've got my personal favorite Martin Scorsese film, and I'm talking about The Color of Money. I know this is probably, to some people, probably seems like an odd choice for a favorite Martin Scorsese film, but this is the comfort movie for me. Of all of his films, this is the one that I can watch over and over again. Used to watch it all the time in the 80s. When did this come out? 1986. So yeah, and after it came out, I love this movie, and I've never even seen the original Hustler to this day. I've still never seen the original Hustler, but I've always enjoyed revisiting this one and returning to this one anytime it's ever played on cable TV or been on, regular TV, edited TV, whatever the case may be. This is one I would quite frequently get sucked into. So Paul Newman, awesome performance. Tom Cruise, very young, very cocky, and Tom Cruise is a little hard to stomach in the movie, but I think a lot of us felt that way. I mean, that was part of his shtick, right? His cockiness in the early days, and you can argue even later on. But I tend to think he's maybe mellowed out just a little bit over the years with age, but man, yeah, he was definitely a cocky shit in this movie, wasn't he? So, but a really engaging film that, like I said, I always love returning to. So, The Color of Money. For my number 5 here, I've got a John McTiernan film, and he had a great run in the late 80s, early 90s, and then I don't know if he ever did much of anything after that, right? But Hunt for Red October. Love this movie. This is another one of these films that's like a yearly watch for me. Sometimes twice a year. This is very much a comfort movie, and this is the kind of movie I can just pop on when it's like late at night, when I don't want to watch something new or start something new, but I'm not quite ready to go to bed yet, and I still want a little more time to enjoy a movie before I hit the sack. I might put something like this on and watch maybe just the first hour of it and then go to bed, and then maybe come back later, watch the rest of it or whatever. But that's a lot of times I'll do that with comfort movies. I'll put them on late at night. Like what I'll do is because I watch a lot of movies late at night with headphones, with like Beats Studio Pro headphones. That is most of the time that's what I'm doing, because that's when I have time to do it, right? And so I'll pop on a newer movie, earlier on in the later part of the night, and get through that, and then I'll still have a little time. I'll have like an hour and a half before I really want to go to bed, because I stay up really late, right? And sometimes I'll just get in the mood to pop on a comfort movie. And I always have a couple comfort movies nearby, to just quickly grab to pop in case I just want to veg out on something for a little bit before I go to sleep. So yeah, Hunt for Red October is definitely one of those types of movies for me. And if you're wondering, Alien is another one of those types of movies for me. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I am not the biggest Alec Baldwin fan. This is one of the few movies he's in that I can actually stomach him in. And he's okay in this. Sean Connery is what really steals the show in this movie, but I can stomach Alec Baldwin for a handful of roles that he's done. Of course, Sean Connery is always awesome in anything he does, and this is certainly no exception. But such a great film here. I think it's fair to say this one is supremely rewatchable. I never really get tired of this one. This is one of those ones I just can't seem to get enough of. So yeah, Hunt for Red October, one I got here on 4K, and I think it's a pretty decent looking 4K. I wouldn't call this a reference 4K by any stretch, but it's certainly serviceable for the 4K format. But really, it's about the movie for me with this one, right? So yeah, great movie. So Hunt for Red October here for my number 5. All right, next up, a 1998 movie starring Matt Damon and Edward Norton, talking about the movie Rounders. It's about poker players, and it's kind of a crime drama. I think that's fair to say. Crime drama thriller, a little bit of a thriller vibe to it, at least in parts. But it's a great cast. Edward Norton, I'm a huge fan of, and this is one of my favorite things that he's done in his career. And, Matt Damon, I'm kind of just so-so on. I don't really have anything against him, but I'm not like that pumped up about him anymore. I used to be more into Matt Damon during the years when he first came out with the Bourne movies, and I really did like Good Will Hunting, but I kind of got tired of Matt and Damon over the years. He just doesn't do as much for me anymore. But I love Edward Norton, and this is one I used to watch all the time. When it first came out, used to play on cable a lot, and I used to watch it a lot and get sucked into it. And if you've never seen it, it's a great film. And John Malkovich is in this. It's worth noting his role in this is awesome. He plays this character called Teddy KGB, and he's hilarious in this movie. I love it. Teddy KGB and his plate of Oreos. For those of you who've seen this, you got to love it. So anyway, yeah, Rounders from 1998. For my number 7 here, we've got a 1996 film that I think is a comfort movie for a lot of people. This really gets the nostalgia kicking into gear here. And I'm talking about Independence Day, Roland Emmerich film with Will Smith, Bill Pullman, and who else is in this? Jeff Goldblum, I can't forget that. Judd Hirsch, Randy Quaid's in this. It's got a bunch of people in it. It's a pretty big cast, good cast. But, I just love this film. It's cheesy. It's kind of over the top. But when this first came out in 96, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. And it was impressive at the time. The special effects were super impressive. They're a little soft looking on 4K because, they were rendered at a significantly lower resolution. But they make it work for this. And it still looks pretty decent on 4K. Another one I wouldn't consider a reference 4K. But if you're a fan of this film, I think it's worth having in 4K and getting it in the best possible quality. But yeah, I just love this movie. Another one I've seen so many times. I feel like I've seen this one a million times, and always love getting sucked back into it whenever it happens to be on, or I happen to choose to put it on. So yeah, Independence Day. And for my number 8, a film I've talked about a few times on the channel, especially this director as of late. I've mentioned this director a number of times. Outland, directed by Peter Hyams, who I've become a pretty big fan of, and this is my favorite. This one, oh man, I watch this maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Maybe not 3, but a couple times a year is not uncommon. This is one that I can watch a lot. This one definitely has a certain soothing feel to it when I watch it. Don't ask me why, but I just love it. I love Sean Connery in this. Think it over. You got to love that. So, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible with accents, so don't even expect me to try and mimic Sean Connery here. But yes, I love this film. I absolutely love this film. This is one of my top wish list items to get a 4K release. I really would love to see this come out on 4K. If you've never seen it, it's maybe a little bit dated now. It's definitely pretty old school. The film definitely is showing its age a little bit, but I still want it on 4K just to have it in that best possible quality. Such a great film. So yeah, Outland. Next up for my number 9 is a movie that I think is probably a little bit later entry in terms of when the movie came out, the timeline for a comfort movie, right? Usually most of my comfort movies are older films and I get that nostalgia going and whatnot, right? But this one's actually came out a little bit later. At least this might be the latest film on this list. 2007, talking about Marky Mark and Shooter. I got this on 4K, and I love this film. I've seen it so many times, and that's why I had to include it on this list. It has become a comfort film, even though it's not like an old school film that I grew up with or anything like that, or in my earlier years, in my 20s and the 90s or anything like that. But I've become quite attached to this film, and it's one that I always love coming back to. I don't ever really seem to get sick of it. So yeah, I won't say too much about it other than Marky Mark Wahlberg, Danny Glover, Ned Beatty's in this, and it's a great action film. So or action kind of crime drama thriller. It's great stuff. So if you've never seen it, I would highly recommend it. And it's a decent looking 4K as well. I mean, it's not, again, not like a reference quality 4K, but absolutely serviceable. So yeah, Shooter. All right, next up for my number 10 here, I'm kind of cheating a little bit with this entry right? I'm including several titles here because I couldn't decide which titles to include. And this entry is for heist films, right? Some of my favorite heist films, or at least heist films that I consider to be comfort movies, because so many heist movies do end up becoming comfort movies for me because I'm just such a big fan of this subgenre, right? So first off, I got to mention the movie Sneakers, right? Robert Redford and Sidney Poitier and a whole bunch of other people in this as well. Dan Aykroyd, River Phoenix. This is a great little heist flick, but it's kind of a different kind of heist flick. They're not after money, right? And I don't want to say too much more other than that, but it's a different kind of heist flick, but it's got all the elements of a good heist flick, the planning stages and how they execute it, and all the tricky security measures that they have to get around in order to pull this off. Yeah, this has got everything that a good heist flick has in it, but it's approaching it, the heist flick formula, from a little bit of a different angle. And yeah, just a really good movie. Somewhat lighthearted, just in its tone, but a great little crime drama. I guess that would be the most appropriate characterization for this one. Just awesome movie. I hear we're getting it on 4K at some point from Kino Lorber, but they've been saying that for a while, that it was going to be coming soon, for over a year now. And so I'm hoping we'll see it at some point this year. And when that happens, I will be upgrading to 4K. Because this one always provides me a certain level of comfort as far as heist movies go. But there are a couple others as well that I also consider to be real strong comfort movies that I couldn't leave off of this list. So as part of this number 10 entry, also talking about the movie Heist with Gene Hackman. This has got kind of a similar tone as the movie The Score, if you've seen that one, which is also a comfort movie for me. But yeah, I mean, so many comfort movies, but this is one that I really enjoy. It's kind of a mellow film. It's weird. It's the tone is like kind of mellow, but it's got all the stuff that you'd expect to see in a good heist movie. So if you like Gene Hackman and you like heist films and you haven't seen this one, I would definitely recommend it. And then, yeah, this one I've seen so many times. Talking about The Italian Job, the remake from, what year was this remake? 2003, right. And I've never seen the original, so, you know, forgive me for not being able to have that perspective. But this one I've always loved. I mean, when it first came out, I didn't even know it was a remake. You know, I wasn't even aware of the original back in 2003. And I've, of course, since become aware of that, but have still never gotten around to checking it out. But this one is so much fun. It's another movie that I think is supremely rewatchable. You got Marky Mark again, Donald Sutherland, Jason Statham is in this. I mean, there's a ton of people in this movie. And of course, Edward Norton, who, like I said, I'm a big fan of. Charlize Theron, yeah, really an all-star cast for this movie, and a whole lot of fun. Very, very rewatchable film. So The Italian Job. Next up, I've got a Stallone film here. I left First Blood off of this list because that's in the It Goes Without Saying category. That, you know, that's like an all-time favorite comfort movie. And an all-time favorite film. So I left that one off of this list. I wanted to be able to focus on this other Stallone film that I just love and is very much a comfort movie for me. I'm talking about the movie The Specialist from 1994, which I have in this Stallone set here. No, it's not Cobra. I'm talking about The Specialist here. And yeah, Specialist is a great film. Really good film. Great cast. It's got probably my favorite performance ever from James Woods in it. James Woods is awesome in The Specialist. And this is one I saw it in the theater when it first came out and loved it, and have always enjoyed coming back to it over the years. It's definitely a comfort movie for me. So yeah, for my number 11, The Specialist. And then, of course, if I'm going to have a little Stallone on my list, got to have a little Arnold as well, just for balance, right? And this is another one where I couldn't decide which Arnold movie to put on. Again, setting aside the Terminator movies, right? We don't need to talk about those, because those are, it goes without saying, those are like all-time favorite comfort movies for me. But the other Arnold movies that are also comfort movies for me, Eraser. I love this movie. And I know some of the CGI is pretty cheesy with the alligator and whatnot, but I get a kick out of it. I think it's funny. Yeah, I just love this one. And it's got James Caan in it as well. And his performance in this movie is probably one of my favorite roles that he's ever done. I love James Caan, and he was awesome in this movie. It's one of the best things about this movie is his performance, and of course Arnold doing his thing, right? But yeah, fun stuff. I absolutely love this movie, and this is the kind of movie I can watch every year. Right? I don't really ever get tired of this one either. So Eraser. But also on the topic of Arnold, I couldn't make up my mind of which other Arnold to choose, so I had to put this one in there as well. The Running Man. Love this film. Another one that's like a yearly watch for me. It's a great cast in this. You got Richard Dawson from Family Feud as the evil game show host. Then you've also got Yaphet Kotto in this, who I've always been a big fan of, and he's great in this. I mean, I think Yaphet Kotto is great in just about anything he's in. I've always loved him, but he's awesome in this as well. But such a fun movie, super cheesy, right? It's definitely showing its age. It's a little bit dated now when you watch it, but a lot of that stuff is from the 80s, right? That's part of the charm. And this is a great looking 4K. I mean, it's easily the best this film has ever looked, in my view. Now, I wouldn't say it's like an incredible looking 4K in terms of reference quality. It's not like the best 4K out there or anything, but it's a solid looking 4K. And for this film, just with the aesthetic of this film, the way it looks, I would say this 4K is definitely the best we've ever seen the film look. So yeah, absolutely love both The Running Man and Eraser from Arnold. By the way, if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing on this channel, do me a favor and please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate that notification bell as well so you can be alerted when I'm posting videos that you might be interested in. And also, don't forget to like the video as well. I know it seems like kind of a small thing, but it really does help with the algorithm and the channel's visibility on YouTube. So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All right, moving right along here to, what is this? My number 13 here is a movie that a little bit different than some of the other ones on this list, but a movie that I just love. I'm talking about the movie Boiler Room, starring Giovanni Ribisi. And who else is in this? Vin Diesel. Ben Affleck has a role in this, and I think a couple other people as well. But this is a great movie. I have always loved this movie, and this is one of those movies that is really easy for me to get sucked into if it happens to be on, or if I happen to come across it somewhere. It's easy to get sucked into this one. It's a very rewatchable movie. It's about stockbrokers who I think have a little bit of an edge to them. Some shady coke sniffing stockbrokers, right? That's kind of what's going on here. And so it's an interesting movie. It's kind of a cutthroat type movie, but it's extremely engaging. And it's the kind of movie that is highly rewatchable. So I love this one, and I love to return to this one every few years or so. So Boiler Room. And then next up, I have a John Carpenter film that I don't feel gets enough love among, John Carpenter's catalog. And I'm talking about Memoirs of an Invisible Man. This is Chevy Chase, right? And it's my personal favorite role that Chevy Chase has ever done. I think it's the best thing he's ever done. Now, admittedly, I'm not the biggest Chevy Chase fan. He's got a couple classic comedies that we all, I think, appreciate, but I've never been the biggest fan of his. But this one, I love him in this movie. This is a great movie. I think it's highly underrated. I used to watch this all the time when it first came out. It used to play on cable quite a bit, and I would stumble across it quite often and get sucked into it. So Chevy Chase in this, Daryl Hannah, Sam Neill is at his sinister best in this. It's a good film, and I don't feel like it gets enough love among John Carpenter fans. There's a few out there who appreciate it, but usually it gets kind of dismissed as not one of John Carpenter's better films. And I think it's a fantastic film. I think it's really well done. Even the Invisible Man special effects were, I think, kind of ahead of their time, and they still hold up in my view, at least, as best as you could expect for a film of this age. But yeah, great film. It definitely is a top 10 Carpenter film for me. Maybe not a top five. It's a little outside the top five, but it's not too far outside the top five for me. In fact, I believe I actually did a top 10 John Carpenter video at one point on this channel some time ago. So anyway, awesome movie. Chevy Chase plays it pretty straight here. You know, it's very different than his other roles. I mean, you still get that kind of lighthearted Chevy Chase vibe. You know, there are some you know, slightly comedic elements to it where you can see, you know, his shtick, his personality kind of come through. But for the most part, I think Chevy Chase plays it really straight on this one relative to his other work, right? And as such, I think it's the best thing he ever did. So yeah, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, great film. Check it out if you've never seen it. For my number 15, we got to talk about Clint Eastwood here, and I am cheating again on this entry because I couldn't decide which one to include. Actually, I mean, it wasn't that hard of a decision, but yeah, a little Clint Eastwood action here, a little Squint with Clint. I always love to squint with Clint. And Escape from Alcatraz. I have seen this film so many times. I've been watching this since I was young. You know, probably since, you know, within a year or two of it coming out. I used to, anytime this would show on cable or show on, you know, regular TV, non-cable TV, like just, you know, major networks or whatever, edited for TV type situation. Yeah, anytime this thing was playing, I would get sucked into this thing so often. I've seen this movie so many times. I absolutely love it. I've always been a big fan of prison films in general, right? I love prison films, and I've always been particularly intrigued by the whole Alcatraz thing and this story in particular. So Clint Eastwood is awesome in this, but this one is a massive, massive comfort film for me. This one, every time I put it on, I really do get that feeling like I'm coming home again, right? And it's always fun to revisit this film. So I love this one, but I got to give a quick, I guess this is almost an honorable mention because I wouldn't choose this one over Escape from Alcatraz, but I wanted to at least mention it while I was on the topic of Clint Eastwood here, and that is Dirty Harry's Magnum Force, right? I mean, not talking about the first film here. Obviously, I have the 4 Dirty Harry films here on this little Blu-ray quadruple feature. Don't have all the Dirty Harry films on Blu-ray. I think I have a digital code of the Deadpool, which I don't care as much about that. Eventually, my plan is to hopefully replace all of these with 4Ks, and I do have the first Dirty Harry film pre-ordered, the Steelbook upcoming 4K release, which is now out, available for pre-order, I should say. But for our purposes here today, Magnum Force. Magnum Force has always been my favorite Dirty Harry film. I mean, it's close with some of the others. I like them all. They're all kind of comfort films to me, but Magnum Force in particular is a big time comfort film just because it's the one I feel like I've seen that one the most out of all the Dirty Harry movies. And it's the one I used to watch more often than the others. But they're all 4 of these films are comfort movies for me, but Magnum Force in particular is the one I just love, and I can't wait for that to hopefully eventually get a 4K release. I have to assume if they're going to release the first one on 4K that the others are coming too. So yeah, Magnum Force for my other Squint with Clint under this entry. All right, next up I have a Nicolas Cage movie from the year 2000, big time comfort movie for me, Gone in 60 Seconds. You know, there are quite a few Nicolas Cage action movies that have become comfort movies for me, right? And some of them are on like all-time favorites, or at least a couple of them are all-time favorite films for me. But I love Gone in 60 Seconds too, and this one I could watch over and over and over again. I did, in fact, used to watch it over and over again. And, you know, I would love to see this finally released in 4K. We definitely need this one in 4K. And we need the full, like, extended version. There was, like, a director's cut that was released when this was released on DVD. And I have it. I have the old DVD with the extended version on it. But I never watch it because it's DVD and DVD sucks. So, at least in my humble opinion, right? DVD shit. I don't like it. So, but I love this movie. This movie is awesome. Nicolas Cage, Giovanni Ribisi again, Delroy Lindo in this. Of course, the great, the mighty Robert Duvall in this as well. Just a great cast. Some other people in this as well, but an awesome cast. And I love the bad guy in this. The guy is so cheesy. He's hilarious, right? So yeah, Memphis Reigns. Gotta love it. So Gone in 60 Seconds. And then for my number 17, I guess I could have done like a two for cheating on my last entry and just included this as well. But, whatever. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. I just go with what I'm feeling, right? Another Nicolas Cage movie here, National Treasure. This one is another big-time comfort movie. I can watch this one over and over again. I love the vibe in it. The vibe, for some reason, of this film is just very comforting to me. Nicolas Cage, you got Jon Voight in this. I love Jon Voight. And who else is in this? Harvey Keitel, Sean Bean. I mean, this has got a lot of good people in it as well. The other thing I like about this movie is that it's also a really good heist film. In fact, that's what initially caught my attention about this film when I was first seeing the trailers, early on before it even came out in theaters, oh, they're going to steal the Declaration of Independence? Are you shitting me? I have got to see that. Right? As soon as I heard that's what they were doing in this movie, I was all in. I knew I had to see this movie. And it's become a comfort movie over the years subsequently, in part because of that heist element. Like I said earlier, a lot of heist films end up becoming comfort movies for me because I love heist films. Well, this one is certainly no exception, right? So, yeah, I just love this one. Can't quite get enough of it. And yeah, great film, National Treasure. And then for my number 18, I've got another Colin Farrell movie here. This is from 2003 and also starring Al Pacino, who is always awesome. Talking about The Recruit here. This is about the CIA, and Colin Farrell basically gets recruited by the CIA. And I love this movie. It's kind of like SWAT for me. Between this and SWAT, both of those movies I can rewatch over and over again, and I never seem to really get tired of them. So what I love most about this movie is I love the CIA training where they go to the farm and you get to see all the training that they go through after he's been recruited, and that whole story specific to this film as it relates to this film and why they recruited him. But this is great stuff. Yeah, I can watch it over and over again. No problems with repeat viewings on this one for me for some reason. And I don't even necessarily think it's that great of a film like some of the others on this list. I mean, it's okay. It's a decent, entertaining film, but I wouldn't put this as like some all-time favorite film or anything. It's okay. But for some reason, there's just something comforting about it that I love returning to this one. So yeah, The Recruit. And then next up for my number 19, this is one I have definitely talked about on the channel before, but I just had to mention it because I have a real strong comfort attachment to this movie. I'm talking about Speed, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, and Dennis Hopper, who is, I think this is the best role for Dennis Hopper, or my favorite role that I've ever seen Dennis Hopper. His performance in this is awesome. It's both amusing and psychotic, right? So you just got to love that. Dennis Hopper he's a real character. He's always been good in anything he's in. But I just absolutely loved him in this. Saw this movie in the theater when it first came out in 96? Yeah. And, was blown away. I've said this before on the channel. I think we all, developed a crush on Sandra Bullock after this. But such a fun film. And I was really disappointed that we never got Keanu to come back for the sequel. I think that film would have been a lot better had we done that, had Keanu been interested in the sequel. So I was always a little bit bummed about that. But yeah, this is one that I have, saw it in the theater and then watched it on repeat in the years after it was released on cable TV. Used to watch it all the time, and I still do. This is like a yearly watch for me. I can watch this one every year for sure. So yeah, absolutely love Speed. So that's my number 19. And then finally, for my number 20 is another title that I've definitely mentioned a few times on this channel, but I had to talk about it. Because I'm a big fan of this movie, a huge fan of this movie. And I'm talking about Ray Liotta in No Escape. I have a 4K release here from Turbine Media. This is a 1994 movie that it's one of the better B movies from 1994. It's like a B movie, but it's a high quality B movie. I think that's fair to say. This is directed by Martin Campbell, who some of you know from the Bond movies. He's done did Casino Royale, and he did Goldeneye, and he's done a bunch of other types of movies as well. But this is one of my favorite Martin Campbell movies. So, but Ray Liotta is in this. He's awesome in this. Lance Hendrickson is awesome in this. This is another one that's a yearly watch for me. I got this 4K from Turbine Media. You can't get these media books anymore. They had like 3 different media book designs for this. I did a whole deep dive on Turbine Media at one point on my channel. You can check that out. Boutique Spotlight is what the series is called, and so far I've only done 1 episode of that, so I think I need to do another Boutique Spotlight episode and talk about some of the other boutiques. But Turbine Media is awesome, and the only way you can get this movie on 4K is by buying it from Turbine Media, right? And I actually will. You can't get these media books anymore. They had like 3 different designs. They were all limited. They all sold out, but you can still get a standard edition of this film on 4K. I will put a link to that in the description to Turbine's website directly, and they're a great website. They are a German company, but I've ordered them from them directly several times in the past and always had a really good experience with them. Very solid company, great people there that really care about the work they're doing. But their standard 4K is kind of hard to find because you have to know what the German title is. It's an alternate title for the movie Escape from Absalon in German, and I don't know German, so I can't remember what that is. The exact title, but I'll look it up and I'll put a link to it in the description below for those of you. The only way you can get this movie on 4K is from Turbine Media. And you can get it from them directly, or you can order from like Diabolic DVD or Orbit DVD. They might actually have copies of the standard edition of this film on 4K. But great action film. I've talked about it a lot, so I won't say too much. If you know this movie, then you know how good it is, right? No Escape. Excellent, excellent film. And it's another prison colony film. It's like a futuristic prison colony film, although it takes place in the future of 2022. So it's a little bit dated, but it holds up really well, and it's mostly practical stuff here, practical effects and all that. So there's some great stuff in here. Great movie. So No Escape. Okay, so that wraps up my main list of 20 or 20 plus if you include my cheating. But of course, I also have just a couple honorable mentions. Because this was such a long list, I didn't want to go too crazy on the honorable mentions, so I have precisely 2. And I'm just going to mention them real quick because I really could have kept going on this list and made it like 40 or 50 films, right? I mean, there's so many movies out there that I do consider comfort movies that I really could have kept going on this list. But for today's honorable mentions, I got to talk about Apollo 13 real quick. This is another big time comfort movie for me, and damn, what a cast this movie has. You got Tom Hanks, you got Bill Paxton, who I love, Kevin Bacon, who I love, Ed Harris in this, and some other people as well. Just such a great film. And this is another one that I used to watch over and over again in the 90s. When did this come out? This was 95. All right, so yeah, that makes sense. I can remember watching this one on repeat quite a bit back in the 90s. 4K looks great as well. Really, it's actually really cool seeing this film in 4K. There are a few special effects that are showing their age, but that's to be expected for a film of this age. So yeah, love Apollo 13, and it's highly rewatchable for me. And then the other one was Event Horizon, another one I've talked about a ton on this channel. I got it on 4K here. I highly recommend picking up the Paramount 4K. This is a steelbook, but you can get a standard edition as well. You don't have to get the steelbook 4K. You can get the standard 4K. But this one almost seems like it would be kind of a strange choice for a comfort movie, right? I don't know why I find this movie so comforting. I just do. Especially that first like half hour, 45 minutes. That's where I really get locked into the comfort zone. And I don't know why, but it's one I've seen a million times. Watched it in the 90s. And initially I wasn't even as into this the first time I watched it, but I watched it so many times over the years playing on cable TV. It was always playing, it seemed like, on one outlet or another, right? So I used to watch it all the time, and I just really grew to love this film. So yeah, Event Horizon for my final honorable mention, comfort movie. Okay, so that about wraps it up for some of my favorite comfort movies on physical media. Let me know what you think of this list in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. What do you think of my choices, my comfort movies? Are any of my comfort movies also comfort movies for you? And what are some of your favorite comfort movies, maybe that I didn't include on my list today? I definitely want to know. I always love chatting with you guys and interacting, so make sure you leave me some feedback down below. Oh, and by the way, I do still have a channel update coming soon. I know I mentioned that I was going to have one out a week or two ago, but it's taken me a little longer to kind of implement some of the new changes that I'm going to be making to the channel. But I am working on that. I'm changing my whole system over. I got a whole new system. A whole bunch of new gear and everything, and I'm learning some new software and whatnot. So I do have a channel update coming soon. It's just taking me a little bit longer than expected to fully implement the whole thing. But you'll know soon enough what some of these new changes are going to be to the channel. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully in the next week or so. We'll see how it goes. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.